Hey guys, Art17 here, your faithful instructor. And as you can see, we're in week 5. So let's talk about assignment number 9, which is landscape. The reason I only have landscape and not another assignment and homework is because I really want you to work hard on this and spend all week on it and make it epic. So we've already been shading a lot, doing a lot of shading on different objects, different textures, different ways things fold and bend and catch light and don't catch light. And we've talked about this over and over and over. And we talked about proportion and placement as well. So when you're doing your landscape, I would prefer you go out and actually look at a landscape and draw from that. Now, if you have painted before and you feel you're fairly good at it, then I will say that you can go ahead and paint this one too. But if you haven't painted much or at all, then don't try it. Stay with the drawing and the shading with graphite. Now, you can use charcoal as well. Charcoal works really good. It gets things done really fast. Charcoal drawings are really awesome. I'll see if I can provide one in video, as well as some tree drawings and different things for landscape, so that you can kind of practice different tree drawing. So you don't make a tree, like just a ball on top of a stick, right? They're very rarely like that, real trees. So, like I say, I'd rather you go out and look at something and draw it, landscape-wise. Now, of course, this could morph into a seascape-ish, if you have enough land. And you want to put some ocean there too. Lighthouse sort of ideas work really well. And if you can't find a lighthouse, well, there's one in Crescent City where I'm teaching out of, but it's a really awesome one. Whatever you have that you can find, then go do that. Having a structure in there is a good idea, but it doesn't have to happen. You can just do the landscape. Landscape's a big word. I'll show you a lot of images of landscape. On being here, and a landscape is just a lot of stuff, okay? Here's, the drawings with the graphite. This is pretty minimal here. This is probably what you shouldn't do, is try to make trees like this, They're not really all that accurate, and so I'd rather you study the tree drawing video I'm sharing with you, and, trees that look a little more like this. Or a landscape, this is a illusion of depth, road going back, where it goes back into nothing because everything appears to get smaller or thinner as it goes away from you. It's an illusion most of the time, especially on a path that's the same size here. It's the same size over there, but it looks like it's getting shorter because it's going away from you, and it just looks that way. These are more accurate trees. There's more going on than just boop, 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 boop. Most of the time, actually, pine trees and redwoods and stuff don't really go down all that much. They kind of branch out like this and kind of reach up, which is, when you're drawing them down, there's some that do that, like here they're showing you, but they can go back and forth. So make it up and do it right. But, look at these images, and you'll notice there's a lot more to a tree than just this sort of idea. All right. A landscape could be, a tea garden like this thing, Japanese tea garden right here, the little, whatever that is, lantern sort of structure. Like I say, there can be structures in it or not. It can be more impression if you're doing it well. I think this is more like an impression drawing. But it's a reflection on water, it looks like to me. And then you have kind of an impression of a tree. Yeah, give that a try. And it is realistic in one way and not in another. It isn't picture perfect, but it is an impression of a picture perfect. So, yeah. Many other ideas here. Like I say, if you paint or have used other media that's you're pretty confident you can pull that off, then go ahead. This is kind of a cool idea. This is another impression, but it's well done. These trees are impressions of trees because they're off in the distance and they're not detailed. They're kind of in a mist. And then you have this misty area before the mountain appears above it. And then you have these clouds appearing above that. And then all this nuance of the lake or river going back and forth, and there's a lot going on in there. But these are horizontal lines and patches of them that go over each other. There's different tones here, different tints and shades of that same color. This is basically a monochromatic, which we're going to be doing later in week 11, but we're using one color in white and black to make that color lighter and darker. It doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be a structure either. It can be total something in this regard. But as you notice, there are little ripples in the water, and there's also reflection in the water of the trees, because that's a good way to do water. Then you have this stuff back here. It's a little washed out in places, certainly in the sky. Sky is never white unless there's a blizzard going on. It's not white. So I don't see any snow in the trees, so it's not a blizzard. I like the trees, I like the water, but the white in the background is very distracting in a lot of ways. And so I think more tone in everything you're drawing works better. In Japanese paintings, Chinese too, they have empty space that works well with some subject matter. So let me look at it. If you really want to do something in this sort of regard, then try it, and I'll give my 2 cents about it. If I can see the sort of Asian take on the artwork, then fine, and it works. Otherwise, you should put tone in everything. This is wonderful. What a wonderful drawing this is. Beautiful. But there's a lot of tone. Reflection of the moon on the water. It's not literal. It is more of an impression, but a realistic impression. It's beautiful. Many, many ideas of landscapes. It'd be great if you can go out and pick something and actually be looking at it, or you can work off of one of these. Okay, I'm not opposed to that, but let's put some tone in the sky where they don't put any tone at all. It's kind of silly up there. It looks empty. It looks like they just cut that out. When all this has stuff, contrast and tone, and all of a sudden there's a white sky. I don't know why anyone would do that, really. It's much better with something like this going on in the sky. It matches up to the rest of the drawing. There's at least something going on in the sky. Little clouds, little tone here, backed off over there. Yeah, that's a stronger drawing, I believe. Even if it's a little bit of tone in a certain areas, it does work. But I want to see the effort. We're doing one drawing here, guys. Right? One drawing all week. That means what? 6+ hours? Don't send me something that looked like you did in an hour. That's not going to work. Beautiful. But the cloud mist here is the only part that's kind of backed off from any other tones, but it has a tone, I think. Still has a little bit of a tone, a slight tone that is different than the paper. Use that paper for to emphasize real highlights and not an empty space, unless you're doing the Asian empty space sort of thing, then fine. We'll see how that works. I'm just picking the ones that are mostly graphite or charcoal and showing you. Now, what you want to notice about trees, most of the time, there's a light source coming from one side or the other. That means the tree is going to be lit up on one side and the other side is kind of darker tones. And it's a gradual transition. There's a mid-tone in the middle. So light, mid-tone, dark, light, mid-tone, dark, light, mid-tone, dark, all these trees. And then you're showing the bark in there too, have a little bit of a rough edge as you're shading. So a little lighter there, a little darker there, a little lighter there, a little darker there. You know what I mean? You see the bark in there. That's showing the bark and this wonderful reflection on the water, some rocks. There's lots of dark areas and lots of light areas. This is going to bring the contrast and the shape. It's going to bring the whole drawing right off the paper at you. Okay, so lastly, I'll show you something like that. In the painting sense, I don't think that's a photograph, although it looks like one. And then there's this. It's a beautiful impression, really. But it's a fine line between really amateur, not so good drawing and something like this. You really have to feel this. You have to be in the zone to feel what you're drawing. Maybe you want to give this a try. I don't like the lines back here. They're not really accurate. But, they sort of go with this sort of thing. But at least they're toning the sky, right? They're toning that sky in. That's a good thing. Professor likes that. I like this one too, It's got a lot of contrast in the weeds, the tweeds here, or whatever you want to call these. Tweeds? Anyway, I make up stuff all the time. I think I'm making that up. Tweeds. Anyway, no, that's a... All right, so I ran out of options here. You can go to Bing, you can go to Google, you can look up all kinds of stuff. And like I say, trees are just not one shape. So watch the video I provide on drawing trees. Maybe I can find something else about drawing landscapes and putting that on the video as well. And then this is it, one great drawing. Lots of content, lots of contrast, lots of shape. I'll say that all day long because when you send me this drawing, there was all week you did this one drawing. It's got to be epic, or I'm going to send it back and have you do a lot of work to it. Okay? All the things I just talked about. All right. We'll talk with you later. We'll talk with you next week.